Okay, good. Shh. Good afternoon, everybody. This is a hastily arranged session to talk about a big event that, if you've been on Mars for the last few days, you don't know has just taken place, which is the UK budget. And there's quite a lot in it, and so I think colleagues thought it'd be great to get together a quick discussion to talk about, well, what we're still finding out was in the budget, because I think we're going to find out it's still coming out as we speak. So I'm going to ask Paul Dennett to say a few words, and then Eamonn to see if you can decode what it means for the combined authority, and then Joanne, who's still researching, to find out what it actually means for the for the City Council. So without any further ado, Paul.
Come to me last.
Great. No, thank you very much. So just to give colleagues some headlines really around what budget means for Greater Manchester. So we are going to be getting a single settlement from government. Government has agreed to this, but that's not going to kick in until the next spending review, so from 2025-26. And that's obviously going to be for funding across a whole range of different areas, so growth, place, transport, housing, regen, adult skills, net zero carbon. Also work to do prevention and tackle multiple disadvantage, so inequalities and poverty is also part of the thinking in terms of the mix there around the single settlement. Do we have a figure on that? No, we don't at this stage, but we do have the government's commitment to delivering that, which is something we've been asking for a long time. And I'm sure you can appreciate why, because engaging in all of this activity around small pots of money costs an absolute fortune from a public sector point of view. So that's great news for us. On skills and employment, a new partnership for post-16 technical educational skills, providing also oversight. That's what we'll be doing in Greater Manchester for post-16 education and skills. Also on the non-apprenticeship adult skills funding for post-19, they'll be devolved in the next spending review. So again, we have to wait for that for Greater Manchester. Government's also committed to us having a co-design approach here to all future contracted employment support programs, so working with the DWP, Department for Education, in that space. On digital and data, a new data partnership. I know colleagues in the room are desperately keen to hear about data and digital and what we're doing in that space, and also the establishment of a digital infrastructure leadership group. Moving on to transport, a new rail partnership with Great British Rail, supporting the integration of rail into the B network by 2030. That'll look at full fares and ticketing integration across bus, Metrolink and rail, in addition to joint branding and marketing of our public transport across the city region. Somewhat more interestingly for me, I think, given that I'm really interested in housing, we've got £150 million coming into Greater Manchester in Brownfield Housing Fund monies over the next 3 years. We need to deliver 7,000 homes, and that builds on our track record to date in terms of getting Brownfield Housing Fund monies out of the door. We've also been given a new strategic oversight on the Affordable Homes Programme, and colleagues might appreciate 5 local authorities historically have been restricted from bidding through Homes England and government to access grant for social rent. So having that flexibility now to think across all those 10 local authorities and having strategic oversight of the Affordable Homes Programme is great news for us. We're going to be strengthening our relationship with Homes England. As you know, we've got a strategic place partnership in place, so embedding that, deepening that in terms of what we're trying to achieve within Greater Manchester is very much part of our thinking. Government have also announced a housing quality pathfinder, specifically targeted at the private rented sector, and that will build on, obviously, the announcement that Michael Gove made at the Convention of the North around the 15 million to tackle standards within the social housing sector. Again, looking at selective licensing, a portal for landlords, and obviously tackling all those issues around quality of provision. In terms of fiscal devolution, Greater Manchester authorities will be able to retain 100% of our business rates for 10 years, which is great news because we've been literally waiting from 1 year to the next to know whether or not government is going to extend that for another year. Importantly, in addition to that as well, government will work with Greater Manchester to designate a number of specific growth zones. And if you're a growth zone, you will get 100% business rate retention for 25 years. So again, government will be incentivising growth here. In terms of governance and accountability, I won't dwell too much on this other than to say there is a requirement for the establishment of a new public scrutiny session with Greater Manchester members of Parliament to be held 4 times a year. So adding to what we're already doing really in Greater Manchester in governance terms. Then on economy, growth and culture, the deal does talk about establishing a strategic innovation partnership, a strategic productivity partnership, and a strategic cultural partnership. So lots of work still in train there. Also, Greater Manchester and government will deepen their joint working relationships on trade, investment and exportation. On net zero and the environment, government have committed to piloting devolving net zero funding, which includes building retrofit to the combined authority from 2025 onwards. They're also going to appoint Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, as the responsible authority to develop a local nature recovery strategy for Greater Manchester. And obviously we'll work on a range of different projects and initiatives around net zero, nature recovery, climate change adaptation, and build that into our policy framework across the city region. Beyond the Devolution Trailblazer, there are lots of other announcements that are coming out at the moment. And just a quick canter through the Red Book. We've just done a very quick canter through. There's been an announcement of 200 million for 16 regeneration projects across England. Wigan will receive 6.6 million, Salford will receive 5.4 million, and Tameside will receive 19.9 million. What we think those are devolution sort of levelling up bids that haven't been successful, that government have revisited and granted in the budget. In addition to that, there's been an announcement of 400 million to provide place-based regeneration in 20 of England's areas most in need of levelling up between 2023 and 24-25. And 2 local authorities in Greater Manchester are also mentioned there, which are Oldham and Rochdale, who will be sharing in that 400 million allocation, which again is really, really good news. And then finally, from our quick canter through the Red Book, there's also been an announcement of 58 million in 3 levelling up capital projects in the northwest. And Stockport has been referenced with regards to building a community hub, and I think it's in Marple. So all in all, really good news for Greater Manchester. Government are headlining this as £1 billion worth of investment into Greater Manchester off the back of the Devolution Trailblazer deal. As I say, it is a 65-page document that's only just been published, so give us a little bit more time to garner a further detailed understanding of all of this. But all in all, I think we can say it's good news for Greater Manchester.
Great stuff, thank you, Paul. A lot to be cheery about there. Anyone would think there was a general election coming at some point soon. Eamonn, could you say more, and particularly on innovation? What more have we learned about innovation?
So cynical for once, so young, Michael. There's quite a bit in there on innovation, building on the existing innovation accelerators, as government pledging support for Innovation Greater Manchester in its longer-term ambitions, and looking to work with us on a range of projects to bring forward innovation linked to the announcement today of an investment zone. We will be invited to work with government to develop an investment zone, which is a bit of a better process than the casino that was set up a few months ago that invited everyone to bid for everything, everywhere, all at once. So this is a much more ordered programme. We hope that we'll be able to take advantage of that in Greater Manchester, along with a number of other areas in the north. So as Paul said, there's an immense amount of detail. There's a 65-page devolution deal. There's 122 pages in the Red Book. We've only just had them about 20 minutes ago, so we are working through them as fast as we can, and we'll get detailed information out to all partners and stakeholders as fast as we can. But I think generally you have to say it's a good day for GM. I think we've done well, and I want to pay tribute to my team who've worked really, really hard with leaders and with chief execs to get us to this point. So it's good stuff.
Great stuff. Thanks, Eamonn. Joanne.
So I think I'll try and add a little bit. I'm just going to quote from the start of the devolution deal, actually, and it sets this in context by saying, whilst Greater Manchester has done well and Manchester's done well as part of Greater Manchester, our GM productivity remains at 90% of the national average, and it's been at 90% for the past 10 years. And what the purpose of the devolution deal is that they're now saying that with the extra powers, the extra funding and the leverage that we can make from that, the government estimate that our productivity will be lifted to national average, which equates to 8.2 billion return to UK PLC. So I think it's important to remind ourselves that it isn't just us wanting more power, more funding, more glory in the city. It is genuinely about what we do with that adds to UK PLC, so I think that's important. I just want to pick up on skills because whilst the funding's there, we've got to make sure that we're able to respond to that single pot, we're able to build the homes, tackle net zero, and create a future for our people. So we've got a new partnership on technical education, that's T-level skills post-16, a new approach for adult skills funding, which builds on the devolution work that we've done currently and previously, sets us up for the next 5 years with Greater Manchester devising its skills system to meet the needs of business in the future. So I think that's really positive, and having that funding more certain for our FE colleges, our universities and our employers. More detail to work through on that, but it's quite a good one for us. I think there's stuff in there around further devolution models for people who are most disadvantaged or with maybe troubled backgrounds to help them get back into work. We've got some good evidence in Greater Manchester for what we've done about people working well, people with health issues that we've returned to the labour market. So to have our work recognised as a single pot of money for us to go deeper and further in that for longer, I think that's great news for the people of Greater Manchester. There's something in there around our ability to plan and integrate our system over the longer term, which I think is great news. And as Eamonn said, all of this has led to, I think, the announcements on innovation. So the work that we've done with businesses and our approach to the Innovation Accelerator is a business-led approach that was a pitch to government, 30 million secured in the first round, which we're about to announce the successful winners in the Innovation Accelerator first round, and then an additional 80 million. This is digital AI, this is life sciences, this is advanced materials, and this is net zero. So at the end of it, we've got the mission, the ambition, and hopefully the powers. It won't be enough money, but it's a start and a good outcome. So thank you, partners, for being with us in helping us to deliver this, because we couldn't do it without you.
Eamonn, if clearly you're all digesting this new news, is there somewhere people should look over the next few days, or for a longer, more considered response? Because your team will doubtless be working on that.
The full text of the Devo deal and the Red Book and the full Chancellor's statement is on the government website.
Good.
So you can access it immediately there. But as I say, we'll have hopefully a slightly more digestible version of all of that issued to all stakeholders within the next couple of days.
Great stuff. We've only had 15 minutes. I think we're just about done. I think there's time for questions. You've got to go, haven't you, Joanne?
I'm due somewhere else.
Okay. The senior official with whom they've been negotiating said to me about 9 months ago, if we could get 2 big place-based devolution deals out of his term as a civil servant in that job, that will be a good result. And it's not perfect, but it's not a bad start. So I think the work begins for everyone in this room to start to turn these announcements into deliverable reality. So could you give these guys a round of applause, if only for the quick reading?